everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk Physical Media. My name is John. My co-host Faith will be with me for this week's Q&A portion of the show in just a little bit, but we like to start the week off with the news, and there really wasn't much in the world of physical media news this week. The big thing that happened this week was that we got Aliens, True Lies, and The Abyss on 4K Blu-ray. The James Cameron 4K Blu-rays that had digital releases back in December, and they were announced for their physical Region A release on March 12, 2024, but when the day came around, most of us didn't actually get those 4K Blu-ray releases, which led to a lot of disappointment and a lot of confusion this past week. Me personally, all I got was True Lies shipped to me. I haven't received Aliens or The Abyss yet. Aliens just says order received, while The Abyss says that it's going to be arriving on May 7th. And a lot of people have these dates just all over the place, and Amazon just puts out placeholder dates. It'll probably show up way before those dates. I've been following Diabolic DVD on the artist formerly known as Twitter, and they seem to be the only people communicating them in HD movie source. You know, Amazon, Target, and Walmart, they're big corporations. They're not going to communicate to the consumer what's going on. But those smaller companies, they're letting everybody know that they're getting in more and more stock in each and every single day. And it just seems to be an issue with the supplier. I don't know exactly what happened. I felt like they should have been more prepared for this. They knew the date was coming. They should have had enough printed to at least fulfill pre-orders. Otherwise, what's the point of pre-orders? We had many months in advance of these coming out. So it does feel like they fumbled the ball, Disney, on this one. The demand is really high for it. I already see people reselling these on eBay to try and get it to the people that are absolutely desperate to grab them. Don't buy from people selling it on eBay. You know, just wait. These are Disney releases. They're a major studio. They're going to come back into stock. You don't want to spend your money on these and spend more than they're actually worth. I think right now, after only seeing True Lies, $25 seems to be the sweet spot. You don't want to give somebody on eBay like $50 for these when they're just going to come back into stock in the next week or two. Yeah, I'm very disappointed as well. I was really looking forward to watching all three of these films this week, and I was only able to watch True Lies, which I had a great time with. I'm not going to lie. I had a blast revisiting True Lies, but I was looking forward to rewatching Aliens and The Abyss on 4K Blu-ray. But we'll get them in, and then we'll eventually review them here on the channel, and you guys will get all of your orders fulfilled as well. Some people are getting them this weekend, and I know they're going to be really happy with them, and that's the thing. We love the James Cameron films. I know people are a little bit disappointed with the scans, but we didn't have True Lies on Blu-ray. We didn't have it on 4K Blu-ray. The last time we had that was on DVD, and it's the same with The Abyss. Now, Aliens is the big test. We have had previous Blu-ray releases of that, so that's what I'm looking forward to, comparing the previous Blu-ray to the 4K Blu-ray. But True Lies and The Abyss, I'm just really happy we got those on 4K Blu-ray, and whenever they show up, I'm going to be happy to get them. And now, as far as physical media news goes, Vinegar Syndrome announced that Navy SEALs is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray.
They never rent quality flicks. They always pick the most intellectually devoid movie on the racks.
Ooh, Navy SEALs!
The 1990 film that stars Charlie Sheen and a couple James Cameron boys, Michael Biehn and Bill Paxton. I actually remember seeing this movie on cable when I was a kid. I think it might have been on HBO. It's a lot of fun, but I haven't seen it in a long time. But this might actually be one that I actually pick up and revisit because love the cast in it, and I remember enjoying it. It's just been so long, so that's one that they announced. They also announced the film Dangerous Game. That film was directed by Aba Ferreira, who directed two films that I absolutely love, The King of New York and Bad Lieutenant, which got announced for a 4K Blu-ray about 2 years ago. I think actually we talked about it on one of the first episodes of Let's Talk Physical Media. We talked about Bad Lieutenant coming to 4K Blu-ray. One of my favorite Harvey Keitel films. I absolutely love that movie. It was announced for a Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray, and it looks like it's finally back on the calendar for a May release, but it looks like we're also going to get one of his other films, Dangerous Game, on a Blu-ray. Haven't seen this film. I've heard a lot about it, though, and maybe this is one I'll grab because I did enjoy two of his other films. I know that this film goes even darker than Bad Lieutenant, which is incredible because Bad Lieutenant is one of the darkest films that I've ever seen, but hey, maybe I'll grab Dangerous Game and check that one out as well. And then Turbine announced, as a German company, that they are going to be releasing Barbed Wire. That's the 1996 Pamela Anderson starring film. This was supposed to make her a major movie star. Didn't work out that way, but I know plenty of people who love the movie Barbed Wire who are going to be really excited to get this on 4K Blu-ray. And I've bought some stuff from Turbine in the past. That's actually where I got The Frighteners on 4K Blu-rays, so I'm sure that it's going to be very high quality, but this is probably one that I won't revisit. I don't really love Barbed Wire. Love Pamela Anderson, but I wasn't a big fan of that movie. It's not one that I'm going to go running back to, but if you are a fan of Barbed Wire, it is getting a 4K Blu-ray release. And then while I was searching through Blu-ray.com, I noticed that for June, on the release calendar for June 25th, 2024, it says that South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. No confirmation, no rumors. There's just a placeholder date there, no cover art or anything like that, but it does list this 1999 film as coming to 4K Blu-ray on June 25th. Not the biggest fan of that film, believe it or not. Love the show South Park, but that one is a musical, and I know that they love musicals, those guys, but I'm just not the biggest musical guy, and I never really was in love with that film. It's really funny, but I don't think it compares to the quality of the actual TV show, so that's just me, but I still would get that on 4K Blu-ray if it does eventually come to 4K Blu-ray, because overall, it's still a really funny movie. It's just the musical aspects of it, despite the songs being very funny, are just not for me. But that's really it as far as the news goes. Just when I thought we were done with this week's news, I said it was a slow news week, Criterion decides to roll in with their June announcements and just dunk on us. Man, we are going to have trouble when we get to June. Criterion just announced one of their best lineup in months, and just starting it off, we get Blue Velvet, the David Lynch film, probably one of his more popular films from the 1980s, is coming to 4K Blu-ray. This one is fantastic, stars Laura Dern, Dennis Hopper. Mommy loves you. Kyle MacLachlan, who obviously would become more famous with David Lynch and Mark Frost with Twin Peaks in the 1990s. And this is one I was just thinking about pretty recently because I started rewatching Twin Peaks. I was like, it's surprising that Blue Velvet hasn't come to 4K Blu-ray yet. And what do you know? It's coming in June. Also coming to 4K Blu-ray, another Terry Gilliam film, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, is going to be coming to 4K Blu-ray. So that means that Brazil should be coming to 4K Blu-ray pretty soon. They have been bringing all of Terry Gilliam's films to 4K Blu-ray, the Criterion Collection. So Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is next. We should get Brazil pretty soon as well, so I'm pretty excited for that one. They also announced that Querelle is coming to Blu-ray, Victims of Sin is coming to Blu-ray, and The Underground Railroad, which is a miniseries that was directed by Barry Jenkins, is going to be coming to Blu-ray as well. I believe you can watch that right now for free on Amazon Prime or one of the streaming networks, I'm not entirely sure, but it's going to be getting its own physical media release. And the last one, and it's a pretty big one that got announced, and it's coming to 4K Blu-ray, and it's directed by the Wachowskis, that came out in 1996, 3 years before they directed The Matrix. They did a little movie called Bound, and this movie is fantastic. It actually stars Jennifer Tilly. This is also another one that came out before she really came to fame in the late 1990s with Bride of Chucky, but she was in this movie. She was fantastic, and this is one I really can't wait to grab on 4K Blu-ray, so we'll be getting that one pretty soon as well. So June is just a stacked lineup from the Criterion Collection. I cannot wait for it. My wallet, though, we're going to have to rebuild that bad boy back up because June looks like it's going to hurt if you're a fan of the Criterion Collection. That is a murderer's row of films coming to 4K Blu-ray and Blu-ray. But anyway, I'm going to go kick it over to me and Faith for this week's Q&A portion of the show.
Well, Faith's here, and it's March 15, 2024, which also happens to be Faith's birthday. Happy birthday, Faith.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad you can make it into the show, into the studio here for your birthday.
Yeah, it was a long trip.
Yeah. And Faith also wanted to address the elephant in the room. If you've seen the last couple of videos and in the beginning of this video, you probably noticed there's a little bit of markings on my face. Well, turns out it's not only the elderly that can get shingles. You can also just get shingles on your own. And
On your own.
I came down with shingles. So
You came down with it.
Yeah, I came down with it hard. So this week has been a little bit miserable because one thing they don't tell you about shingles also, very painful.
They always tell you how painful
I
it
didn't
is.
look into it. I didn't think
That is not a secret that shingles is painful.
It was a secret to me, and I just found out about it, and I'm not happy. So if you see these little blemishes on my usually gorgeous face, unfortunately, that's the reason. So yeah, still trucking along though. Still putting
I told him to take off a few weeks, but he has to get content out to you guys. He will jump in front of a car for, apparently.
Yeah, you guys mean more to me than my own actual health in some ways. This isn't that bad, though. She's kind of, like, it's painful, but, you know, it just more makes me look a little bit...
they can't see the full joint.
Yeah,
so
no, the hat and the glasses do actually a pretty good job of covering it up.
It's all there. It's scabbed.
I'm talking Two-Face Freddy Krueger type shit.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
he looks like a burn victim. No, you look like a meth addict that was scratching his face.
Yeah, you're right. I don't do meth, though, so. But I can start now, and I'll blend in. So our first question is from your favorite name in the world, and one of our producers, Mr. Smelly Potato.
That's my guy.
And he wrote, for John and Faith, what were your favorite cartoons to watch growing up? Mine were DuckTales, TMNT, Real Ghostbusters, Darkwing Duck, and the Smurfs.
Those are good ones.
Those were good.
Those are boy cartoons, though, all of it. You know?
TMNT especially. Well,
Yeah.
not DuckTales, though, I wouldn't say.
DuckTales is kind of... I mean, it's for everybody,
Yeah.
but mainly that's a
Darkwing Duck, definitely a boy show.
Yeah.
But when I was growing up, I was always I was a Nicktoon guy. So
me too.
You were a Nicktoon girl?
I mean, I feel like I watched Darkwing Duck and what's the one with Baloo?
Blue's Clues?
No, Baloo. Not Blue Clues. Baloo, the bear. I think it was a little before you.
Bear in the Big Blue House?
No. It wasn't like a kid show. Like, it was
wasn't?
a
It just-
cartoon, but it wasn't like
It involved a bear.
Yeah, Baloo.
I'm afraid I just blew myself.
There's got to be a better way to say that.
They lived in the jungle. I forgot what the cartoon name. I used to watch that like when I was like 3, 4.
That must have not been a Nicktoon, though.
No, it wasn't a Nicktoon.
Yeah.
That's Darkwing Duck.
That's like WB Kids, Fox
Yes,
Kids. See, like those shows on those channels, I would watch like the Animaniacs were great.
Especially when you're
Tiny
home from
Toons,
school.
you know, those were when you came home from school, exactly. That's when you also had Batman the Animated Series was on those shows, on those channels. But in the summer, they used to run marathons of Nicktoons, and every day would be like my favorite show. So like I'd watch Rugrats. Rocket Power, Angry Beavers. What else?
Those are good ones.
Rocko's Modern Life was a favorite
that
of
was
mine.
up there for
you
me,
know?
too.
Then the Wild Thornberrys and Hey Arnold came around. Those were great.
I watched Proud Family was a big one for me.
That was the only Disney Channel show I watched. Was the Proud Family.
That was a big one for me. I watched Doug was a big one. Hey Arnold was a big one. I was Told by Ginger I liked.
Yeah, you were an ass told by Ginger.
Nick had the best cartoons. Disney's had the best shows.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. I also didn't just watch anything really. I wasn't a Disney person. I would jump around and also like Cartoon Network. Like I would dabble in like Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, Ed and Eddie, and the Powerpuff Girls. The Powerpuff Girls. I don't know why I wanted to say Power Fluff, and I just knew it was
What
wrong.
is it? Sugar, spice,
And everything
nice. These are the ingredients.
So I watched Cartoon Network a little bit, but really my loyalty was always to Nicktoons.
But that's the thing is, Nickelodeon had the great cartoons, but Disney had the shows. That's So Raven, even Stevens, Lizzie McGuire. They had the good shows.
Nick had Keenan and Kel, all that.
Yeah, but that was like they had them like one day a week. It was like Snick.
Yeah.
You'd have to watch it during Snick. You could. I don't know. And then I also watched. This is not cartoons, but ABC, The Boy Meets World.
Oh, TGIF?
Family Matters.
Yeah, there was a lot of... I watched a lot of TV back in the day, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And I only dabbled in that. I also was watching sports at a young age, but... And then movies and video. Man, I used to have so much more time. Like
There was nothing else to do. You did your homework if you did it. And
I did that stuff at school.
and you played video games and ate and watched TV.
Oh, God. I want to go back. They warned us that being an adult was shitty, but they didn't warn us enough.
No.
I miss being a kid.
We were not prepared for this.
Responsibilities are not as fun as you would think.
They did warn us.
They did warn us. It means I can't have any fun anymore.
They did warn us in Rugrats. They did.
They did. And the next one is from our director and also my co-host of Collector's Corner and has a great YouTube channel himself, Frank's Media and Reviews. And he asked us a bunch of questions. He says, it's been 84 years since I've asked questions, so what is your favorite 4K movie that has IMAX scenes? So for me, I think my favorite one is probably still either Interstellar, which I just watched last night. That has some of the most incredible IMAX scenes. Oppenheimer has some of the best. Ones that you might recognize are Mission Impossible Fallout, which actually has some of the best IMAX scenes when you watch it on the 4K disc, because when they're going into the 4K scenes, it's not such a hard jump. They actually expand it slowly. Looks really cool, and then before you know it, your whole screen's filled up. They did that with the Halo jump scene in Fallout, but those are some of my favorites. You want to jump in on that?
I don't know nothing
You don't
about
care,
that.
huh?
I have no idea. I'm sorry. I can't tell the difference. And you know that.
I did, but you actually noticed a little bit of a difference in True Lies.
I did, because you pointed it out. But if you didn't point it out, I probably would have just been like, oh, it's really clear. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's different, but unless you didn't you pointed it out to me. And I'm like, yeah, because once you pointed it out, now I'm looking at everybody's skin. Not just Arnold's.
Yeah, because Arnold's naturally a little bit, like a figure naturally. He just looks like a waxy guy. Honestly, he's perfect, and that's the problem. Is nobody can live up.
Bronze and everything that gives him that look, He
got a gift. That's what he got. And then number 2 is, we all know Candyman is your favorite villain in horror movie. Twinsies, because that's also Frank's. But Who is your least favorite villain and your least favorite horror movie? Well, I know my least favorite horror villain is probably Leprechaun. I've never really liked Leprechaun. But, I guess that wouldn't be my least favorite horror, series. It's my least favorite horror series, but my least favorite horror movie. I've seen some really, really bad ones. Oh, you know what it is? The Ring 2. After revisiting that recently, I realized why I never went back to that. That movie is just such a huge step down and a huge letdown, especially compared to the first one, which I hold in such high regard. For The Ring 2 to be that awful, and I mean it's awful, it's very, very disappointing. So that'd be my least favorite. Do you have a least favorite?
I don't have a least favorite movie. If I'm, not scared of it, Chucky.
Chucky. Oh, yeah. You know what? Seed of Chucky's another horrible one.
I'm not really scared of him. I think he's just a serial killer is trapped in a doll.
That's exactly what he is.
we can kill him.
People struggled. It's always funny.
Because he hides in it.
Yeah.
So if you're not looking for...
Well, that's what makes it scary for some people. I'm looking over here. What if that Yoda turned out to be real and he decided to kill you?
Oh, well, then that is scary, but... In retrospect, it's not really scary.
I guess you're gonna upset some people. Some people really love Chucky. It always
no, I like Chucky. Don't get me wrong. I just don't find him scary.
Oh, okay, that's understandable then. All right, and this one's just for you. It says 3. Faith. What characteristics?
Characteristics? Do you mean?
Yes, I meant to say what characteristic traits I keep getting emails, so while I'm trying to read it, it throws me off. What characteristic traits do you like about John that you appreciate? John, same question, but about Faith.
I appreciate his very thoughtfulness. He's very thoughtful. He's very thoughtful. He always thinks of others before himself. Sometimes to a fault, I think, but just the fact that he's just he's a good person.
Aw, that was really sweet. And it's funny because that's all the stuff I ever define about you, because you are very thoughtful and caring. Faith, she will stop her life if something happens to me to take care of me.
Yeah. Of course, you're my husband.
Oh, I appreciate
If we don't have each other, who do we have,
Exactly.
You have your mom, your dad and stuff, but honestly, it's like, when you get married, now that's your family.
That
is
your number one.
In the trenches with you when you're sick or you're going through something,
That's one of the vows that, everyone usually sticks to through sickness and through health. If you turn your back on your partner when they're at their lowest moments, you should really look in a mirror and think about your own morals, because that's when you should be really rising to the occasion, is when things like that happen.
Yeah.
When Rick Moranis, this is one of the most sad but also touching stories, after he did Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves, he retired from acting, never came back. I think he might have come back for small roles, but, his wife died, he was there for her through the end of her life, and then he wanted to stop acting so he could raise his kids so they had a parent in their life. And, that's to throw away it all for somebody who you care about. That's true judge of character. I always thought that was a nice story, and I feel like you would do that for me, and I definitely would do that for you.
Yeah, you have to. That's what you sign up for when you get married.
That's true.
And a lot of people, especially in our generation, they don't realize that. They just think of the wedding.
I know.
They don't think of everything that's going to happen. Everything. There's so many things that's going to happen in your lives. Losing people.
Marriage itself is a challenge. I'm sure anyone who's married will tell you that. If you want to be married, it's a lot of give and take. Me and Faith had to invent a game that we play, which is fun for us, just so we could watch movies together. So every night when we watch movies together, Faith gets to pick one and I get to pick one.
Yeah, on the weekends we do that.
Yeah. Oh, during the week,
it's just his movies.
Yeah, it's just my movies.
But it's okay, because he usually gets home. Oh, you didn't tell everyone. You got a new job.
Oh, yeah, I didn't tell you guys. I got a new regular job, so I'll be working regular, normal human hours. We'll get more into that in the next couple of weeks, because it will change the digital code giveaway schedule. Just that we'll be pushing it back one day, because I usually film and, put that out Monday mornings. But no, I'll be working Monday morning, so it'll come out Tuesday morning. But we'll talk more about that as we get closer. So, yes, new job, which is awesome. So, hopefully that leads to more money and more happiness and more 4K Blu-ray reviews. And then our number 4 is, who's your favorite boutique label and what is your favorite release from them? Well, my favorite is the Criterion Collection, and my favorite all-time from them is probably the Malcolm X 4K Blu-ray release, because Malcolm X is one of my top 10 favorite films of all time, and they really sprung for all the bells and whistles when it came to Malcolm X. They gave us the beautiful digibook packaging. It's a phenomenal transfer, extras for days, everything I could have wanted in a collector's edition for my favorite films. If ever Arrow Video, which is a close second, I love what they did with the RoboCop release. I want that for the Terminator release. So those would be my choices choices, Frank. So thank you so much, buddy. That's a great question. Yeah, that's definitely a question for me. And then number 5 is Faith. Your song choice from the last video was banging. What is your what is your favorite song? Who is your favorite artist? And what is your favorite movie soundtrack? John, you already got asked enough questions, so this one's only for Faith. That's it. With love, Frank XOXOXO. So yeah, you're a music junkie, so why don't you tell him about it?
I love music. My favorite types of music is R&B and hip hop, but I like rock. I like a little bit of country. I just like music. You know, I don't like what you listen to. Like when it comes to like just listen to soundtracks.
Well, no. Okay, so soundtracks and scores are different.
Or scores, I mean.
Yeah, so I do just listen to music
like
scores.
He just listens to like scores. I'm not into that, but my favorite artist is Jay-Z.
You was having dope. I'm like, fuck critics. You can kiss my whole asshole. If you don't like my lyrics, you can press fast forward.
I don't really have a favorite song because there's certain songs that I love just the same as the next. I don't have a favorite one.
What are some of your favorite songs, though?
Sweet Thing from Mary J. Blige.
Oh, sweet thing, don't you know you're my
I love Feeling It, Jay-Z, Kanye West, any song. Drake, I love Drake. And I know a lot of people don't like him, but I think that he has some good songs, and he just really it's hard because when you think about music and as you get older, Drake is the type of artist that sticks with what's popular now. He doesn't just, this is my thing, I'm gonna stick with it. No, he evolves, you know. So I might not like a lot of the newer stuff that he does, but I can't put the older stuff that he did, that 09, 010, 11, 12, 13, like those, you can't forget that, and his longevity, so you can't forget Drake. But I really like Kanye too. I love Mary J. But Jay-Z is my absolute favorite, not just music-wise, but just as a businessman.
Mogul.
Yeah, just to see his growth. Just a rapper. The way he presents himself, I really appreciate, you know. And he's the type that doesn't want to keep everything that he's learned, you know, from living in Brooklyn, in the worst area, to being a billionaire. He does teach us how to make money and how to be successful. You just have to listen for it.
Gotcha.
You know, so I really appreciate him for that. So.
Oh, okay, awesome. And you have a favorite music soundtrack?
I like the Clueless soundtrack.
I knew it. And because it's March 15th and it's Faith's birthday, she's already informed me that for tonight, for her birthday, we will be watching Clueless for, I guess, her 13,000th time.
And then we can watch Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, we're rewatching all the Mission Impossibles, one a week. And Mission Impossible 2 is you know what? After my last rewatch, it grew on me, and I'm kind of excited for that. So that's a good choice.
We're going to rewatch it because I like the Mission Impossibles, and he enjoys it, so it's something that we both can agree on.
Yep. So that's actually going to be the last of the questions jointly. So I'm going to kick it over to, to myself, and I'll be answering the rest of the questions. Faith actually won't be here next week, like she said a little bit earlier. She's going to Houston. She's doing a little bit of scouting to see if we ever really want to move there or not. So she'll be spending a few days there with her sister.
Yeah.
So she won't be back next week to film this show. So it'll just be, the big dog riding solo. So any of your questions, all the questions that I didn't answer this week, we'll definitely get to them next week because it'll just be me answering. But any questions you guys want to ask, feel free to leave in the comment section, and I'll stop rambling and just kick it over to myself talking more. So, all right.
Bye, guys. See you in 2 weeks.
And the first solo Kevin Kruger question is, what are your favorite movies that have been released on your birthday? So my birthday is April 2nd, and believe it or not too many films have actually been released on my birthday. The most famous is probably Cat People or Walking Tall from 2004. Cop and a Half, the Burt Reynolds film from 1993, was also released on my birthday, my first birthday. But really, other than Walking Tall from 2004 starring The Rock, which is a remake, and the Paul Schrader film Cat People, which I have reviewed here on the channel, has a really good 4K, and I enjoy that film. That's probably the two films that are most famous that came out on my birthday. Everything else is really like a no-name film. So I guess my birthday doesn't attract movie studios to release films on that, which is really a shame because when I was growing up, my favorite thing to do was go to the movies on my birthday. I remember seeing like 50 First Dates there one year. So every year I would always make it a point to go see a movie in the theaters for my birthday. My mom would always take me. I always had a great time. My cousin Matt, who you guys remember from the channel, he would always come with me as well. And usually, I guess, we were watching movies that just came out during the month of March because I never really... Actually, that's not true. I do remember specifically seeing Walking Tall in theaters in 2004 when that came out, so that would be my 12th birthday. But really, nothing else came out around my birthday, so I don't know. Maybe they don't like April 2nd. Maybe it's because this is the day after April Fool's Day. I don't know. But I did dodge a bullet by not being born on April Fool's Day, despite being a fool. And the next question is from Veronica Reese. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Why can't the movie companies get 4K right? How hard can it possibly be to ship out glitch-free discs? DVD and Blu-ray discs do not suffer from these glitches at the frequent rates of 4K discs. Well, actually, I think this does come down to also what we were talking about earlier in the show about the James Cameron movies coming to 4K Blu-ray. You know, that was a supply chain issue, and I feel like the same thing kind of happens when it comes to printing discs. From what I understand, here in the United States, there is only 2 factories that actually print movies onto 4K Blu-ray discs. Despite the fact that there's all of these studios, they all have to rely on the same factories to print the 4K Blu-ray discs. So, you know, there's a waiting process, and of course, all of these things can happen along the way when you're printing the disc. Something can cause just a minor glitch where the audio pops for a second, or it can even get really worse where it might freeze for a second while you're watching it. Usually it's a very contained issue. Obviously, we've had entire runs of discs getting ruined by this, like 12 Monkeys from Arrow Video a couple years ago, The Craft from Shout Factory last year, or was it 2 years ago as well. Those had issues where every single disc had to be replaced. And for the most part, when this does happen, the studios have great programs where they do replace the discs if there is an issue. If you do have an issue, usually they don't complain. And even if you have a very contained issue where the issue is just to you, usually the studios will always work with you and give you a replacement disc. I've never had an issue getting a replacement disc from any of these boutique studios, and even if you buy something through Amazon and you have an issue, they're really good with returns as well. The only company I ever had real trouble with returns with was Best Buy. They always just seem to throw a little bit of a fit about it, and you know, we see what Best Buy is nowadays, especially since they don't support physical media. Their business practices have definitely declined over the last year or two, but for the most part, the rest of them, I'm sure even with Walmart, they would never give you an issue if you have a very contained issue, but always just look into it. Maybe there was an issue when they were printing the discs and everybody has the same issues, but either way, there's usually replacement disc programs for when this happens. But why does this happen so often now compared to DVDs and Blu-rays? I really just think it's because there's not as many people making discs. It just leads to a lot more errors nowadays. I get a little bit frustrated with this as well, but for the most part, it's not necessarily the disc. If you ever have an issue with the disc, the first thing I like to do is always unplug everything and wait a minute and then plug everything back in. Whether it be your TV, your 4K Blu-ray player, your audio system, unplug it all, unplug your internet, give it 1 minute, then plug it all back in, let it all reset. Usually that fixes the problem 8 out of 10 times. It's the same thing with your cell phone. If you ever have any issues with your cell phone, turn it on and off. A lot of times that fixes it because all this stuff needs to be reset at some point. Your phone, your computer, your TV, your 4K Blu-ray player, anything that you might have running for a while, always do a nice hard reset on it. Usually that fixes any sort of glitches that you might have. You know, with modern technology, it's not like the old days where you had a TV that was about 700 pounds that just lasted for 10 to 15 years and somehow never broke. Same thing with those Nokia brick phones in the late 90s. That stuff just never broke. Nowadays, technology's a little bit more
fragile. It must be Italian.
Buggy. That's just because there's a lot more going on. All these have operating systems in there. There just leaves a lot more room for error, whereas in the old days it was a lot more simplified. So that's why I think now in 2024 we have a lot more issues when it comes to glitches and bugs when it comes to 4K Blu-ray. I just feel like there's not enough factories working on these 4K Blu-rays and printing them, and then when they are printing them, they're always in a rush, which leads to issues. And then of course your actual home technology could have some little bugs and glitches in it as well. So I always recommend at least once a month unplug everything, reset it, and you'll probably have less issues going forward as well. But that's really just my opinion. I don't know for a fact if that's what's causing it, but it does seem to be more frequent, and that's also a side effect of having more technology in our life. So that was a great question as well. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And the next one is from my buddy Rick, and he wrote, who do you put over in the main event at next year's WrestleMania, the Stalker or a very high Jimmy Superfly Snooker? So Rick, along with Uncle V, who you've probably noticed over the last couple episodes, has sent me a question about the film Paprika. Well, Rick is also a friend of Uncle V, and the two of them, along with my cousin Matt, who I've talked about here on the show numerous times, who used to work with me here on the channel, we have a little wrestling group. Every single month we meet and watch that month's pay-per-view, the wrestling pay-per-view for WWF, but we're not watching them from this present day. We're actually watching them from 1997, so on March 23rd, we're all getting together to watch WrestleMania 13, Bret Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin in a submission match, and The Undertaker is going to be versing Psycho Sid in the main event. Obviously, we all already already know what happens, but it's kind of a nostalgic thing for us. We all get together, we just have a good time reliving our youths. So what he's talking about is the Stalker character and Jimmy Superfly Snuka. Well, you know, they used to enjoy a good time back in the 80s and 90s. If you've looked at many documentaries, wrestling used to be just drug and alcohol filled. Not the best environment, especially compared to what 2024 wrestling is. And Jimmy Superfly Snuka and the Stalker were the king of it. You know, they were just going out there doing whatever the hell they wanted to do, having a great time. And if these two versed each other in the main event, I still think that Jimmy Superfly Snuka goes over if he was still alive, Rick. The guy's just a little bit more talented than the Stalker is. But that was a great question, buddy. Thank you so much. I had a good time with that one. The next one is from 021OM6, and they asked some of my favorite questions, and this week is no different. What's your top 10 movie scores of all time? Well, I made a list for this one, and it was actually really hard to narrow it down to 10 of them because I absolutely love movie scores. I honestly could have picked, I only had one artist overlap on this because it was really hard for me to pick my favorite 10. I wanted to do one from each artist, but some of these I could not leave off my list. Like, I could do a top 10 John Williams scores. I could do a top 10 Danny Elfman scores. Jerry Goldsmith, Amira Morricone, like, they all deserve their own top 10 lists, so putting the gun to my head and picking 10 was actually very, very, very tough. But I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up, and at number 10, I got Jerry Goldsmith's 1982 Poltergeist score. Love that score. I love Poltergeist, one of my favorite horror films of all time, and that score is just perfect. I absolutely enjoy that one. Number 9, I got Leon the Professional from 1994. This one is by Eric Sara, who also did 1996's GoldenEye score, and they sound very similar to each other. I absolutely love the Professional score. I've heard people complain about it. I don't understand it. I think that score is amazing. And then at number 8, I got James Horner's Titanic score. This one is fantastic as well. I love the emotions that it brings out of me. A lot of people remember the great Celine Dion song, but I promise you a majority of those people actually just remember that incredible James Horner score, which I actually think might actually be better than the entire film. Overall, I just love that score. I'll listen to that pretty often if I'm being honest with you guys. Even at 8, it might be a little bit too low. And at number 7, I got Hans Zimmer's Interstellar. I actually just rewatched Interstellar the other day for a video here on the channel, and that score is just incredible. My God, it just feels big and epic, and in this big sci-fi epic film like Interstellar, this score just matches up to it perfectly. Also leans right into the emotional moments when they go to the one planet and time is going by so fast, where it's 7 years on Earth compared to 1 hour on that planet, and you just hear the ticking clock in the background. Just perfect stuff. Hans Zimmer is one of the best score makers. I would have to say that John Williams is the best, but Hans Zimmer is right on his tail. Hans Zimmer has made some of my favorite scores of all time. Even some great scores you might not have even realized he did. It's like with John Williams. They've done so many different scores. When you look it up, you're like, holy shit, he did that one? It's the same thing with Hans Zimmer. He's just done so many, and my favorite one from him is Interstellar. His most underrated, though, is Days of Thunder. He doesn't even like to acknowledge Days of Thunder. I don't care. I love the Days of Thunder score. And then at number 6, my first Amira Morricone score, and that is for 1982's The Thing. And, you know, this one kind of feels like a John Carpenter Amira Morricone score. It really sounds like something that you would find in a John Carpenter film. John Carpenter knows how to score his own films, but he brought in the best. He brought in Morricone to do this one. And it's funny because The Thing actually had a track on it. I believe it was an unused track that eventually ended up in The Hateful Eight. And it works perfectly in that film because The Hateful Eight basically is very similar to The Thing. You know, we're in this cold location and something is taking them out. And it's very different, obviously, compared to them, but they are very similar. And you bring in a track from The Thing to put in The Hateful Eight, it just works perfectly. And I absolutely love the score to The Thing. It is my favorite score in any John Carpenter film. And it's just really funny that John Carpenter, who does some amazing scores himself, didn't actually do the score for that one. I'm sure he had an influence. It really does feel like Morricone trying to do John Carpenter. It works perfectly. And then at number 5 is John Williams with E.T., again from 1982. Poltergeist, The Thing, and E.T., Jerry Goldsmith, Amira Morricone, and John Williams, 3 of the best of all time. Those films all came out in June of 1982. Like I said, if anyone was around in June of 1982, can you tell me what it was like? I'm just so curious how that month was being a sci-fi film fan, or just a film fan in general, having the Wrath of Khan, Poltergeist, The Thing, E.T., and Blade Runner all come out in the same month. I just could not imagine it. Like, those are some of my favorite movies of all time. All of those movies are in my top 30 favorite films of all time. They all came out within 1 month of each other. If I ever had a time machine, I think I have to go back to June of 1982, spend a month at the theaters or something. And then at number 4 is another Morricone score. This is his best score, and it's Once Upon a Time in the West. I know people love the good, the bad, and the ugly score, but for me, for my money, Once Upon a Time in the West is the best score. And it's because of the emotional theme in this one that I really love, that really keeps dragging me back, that keeps me listening to it. This 4K Blu-ray, I cannot wait for it to come out in May so I can hear this Morricone score pumping through my speakers. I hope they do a great job on the mix. And then number 3, my favorite film of all time, and it's Brad Fiddel's score for The Terminator. I could have picked the Terminator 2 because that's a great score as well, but I always prefer that synthesizer, and he's using the hell out of it when it comes to the Terminator. And even if you just use the regular Terminator theme, that is an all-time classic. But the rest of the score is perfect as well. Obviously, I feel like more people are going to prefer his Terminator 2 score. That score fits Terminator 2's tone, which becomes, a little bit more of a 90s action blockbuster. But for a 1984 sci-fi horror film, I really do think that this Brad Fiedel score matched up to the film perfectly. And then my numbers 2 and number 1 were really hard for me. I go back and forth with this all the time. Honestly, you ask me on the right day, my number 2 could be my number 1 and vice versa. These two always go back and forth. So if I'm picking today, Friday, March 15th, 2024, at number 2, I have Blade Runner. Done by the late artist Vangelis, and this score is perfect. There are so many great themes throughout this, whether it be the romance theme, which I absolutely love, great use of the piano in there, but that just Sith-heavy score, just in the opening, when we're zooming slowly in, we get clips of an eye, and the score just fits everything perfectly. The opening to this soundtrack is incredible, and the entire score is just amazing for this film. I absolutely enjoy every single moment of it. It's very rare that you can find a perfect score, and that's what brings us to number 1, and that is Danny Elfman's score for 1989's Batman. I listen to this score all the time. I was just listening to this score the other day, actually, and I forgot I was listening to it. I got in the car, and, Bluetooth connected, and Fate's like, what are you listening to? I was like, it's been a while since I listened to the Batman score. She's like, you just watched Batman again last week. But I was like, but I didn't listen to the score. So, I just had to do it. I throw on Danny Elfman's Batman score anytime. Just like the movie, I throw it on anytime I'm in a bad mood. Batman's always been one of my go-to cheer-up movies, and it's the same thing with the score. I'm having a bad day. You pop over on Apple Music, and you throw on Danny Elfman's Batman score. Obviously, Danny Elfman has so many great scores. Not just even with Tim Burton. He has so many other great scores. He's a musical artist himself. I mean, this is the guy who also sang Weird Science. So, the guy knows what he's doing, and I think his magnum opus is the score to 1989's Batman. And he had to compete a lot because there's also an original soundtrack done by Prince for that movie. So, Batman 89, like I've said a million times here on the channel, you can watch a long-form review with me and David here on the channel because we both love that movie. So I've talked a ton about how much I love 1989's Batman. So I'll just stop myself from talking more about it because I'll go on and on and on for about 45 minutes. So that was a great question as well. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. I love talking scores. Maybe one day we'll do a whole show on scores because I could do it. I love scores. So that was a great question. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And the next Kevin Kruger question is, what are your thoughts on my coworker's hot take that your average Joe knows more about anime than movies in general? I don't think that's that much of a hot take. When I'm out in the wild, out in the regular world, working with my regular coworkers who aren't really into film, like I've talked about it here on the channel in the past, one of the main reasons why I started this YouTube channel was just to find other film lovers out there, because in my regular day-to-day life, there really is nobody who likes movies as much as me, especially physical media. Forget it. That's a whole nother conversation. But just being a cinephile, there's not as many of us out there as you might think. The Academy Awards were last week. The ratings came out. It pulled in about 19 million viewers. but their demographic, which is the 18 to 40 demographic, which is the demographic that you always want to hit when it comes to cable programming, apparently it was way down. So that means younger viewers are not watching the Academy Awards, even though a lot of us who watch this channel, including myself, we would fall into that 18 to 40 demographic. We're few and far between. Most cinephiles are a little bit older. Movies in general are not the most popular medium anymore. I would honestly say that video games are the most popular medium right now when it comes to the world of art. And honestly, TV shows are not that far behind it. And anime, I think, would probably be a little bit more popular than film. Your regular average Joe, like I work with this guy who is a huge Dragon Ball fan, never goes to the movies though, unless it's an anime film that he enjoys coming to theaters. And I see this a lot. I used to work with this guy. I'm telling you, anime crosses over to everybody. It doesn't matter who they are. For some reason, it's able to grab the culture zeitgeist. Everybody seems to love anime. I'm not a big anime fan per se, mainly because I don't really watch too many TV shows. So they're like One Piece has like 1,000 episodes or something like that. I know it just got a Netflix show, which you could start that as well, but it just feels like so overwhelming. It's like restarting the Star Trek show. You know, there's just so much, and when it goes to the world of anime, I've already missed out on so much. I don't think I could possibly watch an anime TV show, but I do love anime films like Studio Ghibli, Akira, and of course Ghost in the Shell from 1995. I've said it here in the past before. That is my favorite anime film of all time. I think that movie is a masterpiece. Ghost of the Fireflies. There are so many anime films I love, and I'll always watch an anime film. But you know, it's just really hard for me personally to get into the TV shows because I've dedicated my life to film. But I do agree that the average Joe does prefer anime. We live in a world now where people don't have as much time, or everybody just has ADD, where they don't have enough time to set aside to watch an entire 3-hour film. You hear it all the time when a movie's coming to theaters and it's 3 hours. Nobody wants to see it, but they have no problem setting aside like 22 to 23 minutes and they can watch an episode of an anime on their phone. If I was to pool all the people that are around me, I guarantee that most of those people are watching anime before they're actually watching movies. It's very upsetting to me, mainly because, you know, I'm a cinephile and I want more people watching movies, but I'm also really happy that people have anime. I want them to have something that they're passionate about, and I'm really glad that it is that popular. If I had more time, just like with video games, I would definitely invest it into finally catching up on anime, because I do appreciate animation. I love animation in general. Even Western animation. Obviously, I'm a big fan of studios like Pixar, Disney Animation, Leica Studios. Huge animation fan. We don't talk about it much on the we don't really get to talk about it too much here on the channel, but I am a big fan of animation. Of course, though, all that stuff has to cross over with film for me, but it doesn't matter what the movie is. I'll always try a movie, but TV shows, anime shows, it's just a little bit too hard for me just because there's not enough time in the day. But I actually kind of do agree with your coworker Kevin that anime probably is more popular to the average Joe than movies are nowadays. It's just the world has changed, buddy. And the next Kevin Kruger question is, if someone gave you $20 million to watch a Serbian film every day for the rest of your life, would you take the offer? I'm just gonna put it to you like this, Kevin. I hate the Serbian film. I think it's one of the worst. I think it's one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It's an atrocity. I can't believe they even made that movie. I do not want to ever watch it again. But $20 million is a lot of money. And after like 3 or 4 viewings, you're not going to care anymore. So you're saying all I have to do is every single day turn on a 2-hour film and just sit there and watch it, and I don't have to go to work for the rest of the day, and I get $20 million? Yeah, I'm taking that offer. I mean, I have spent 8 to 12 hours at a job that I absolutely hate numerous days for way less money than $20 million. So there's not many things that are off the table when it comes to $20 million. I'll pretty much do anything that doesn't hurt anybody else. You know, whatever. I'll do anything to myself. You want me to jump off a 10-story building and just break my leg? As long as I don't die, I'm fine with that. I could really use the $20 million. I'm not going to lie to you. So for me to have to just suck it up and watch a 2-hour film every single day, even a film like a Serbian film, yeah, I'll probably do it. So I'm not going to lie to you guys. You throw $20 million in front of my face, the answers you might get from me will be shocking. And my last Kevin Kruger question for this week is, what are your biggest insecurities? Well, I'm actually a pretty confident guy, despite the fact that I have some flaws in my system. Obviously, you guys watch the channel. You can see that I'm very, very, very white. I have ocular albinism, which means I'm pretty much an albino. So I can't really go out in the sun too much. I can if I put like SPF 100 on, but you know, you got to block up every hour. So, you know, obviously I'm a little bit insecure about that, given I was born with it. You get used to it. And I also don't have the greatest of vision, so that's always something that's been very insecure with me when I was in school growing up. I'd have to sit in the front row. It was kind of hard for me to like take notes. I just have to be closer to things. But when you're in school, you know, that stuff could be very, very, very hard on you. Kids can be bullies. Now, the thing was with me is I'm a very funny guy, and I learned very quickly, this isn't a good trait, I don't think, but, you know, when people would pick on me for certain things, I learned that most people are insecure about something, and I would always figure out what they were insecure about, so if they wanted to come at me with something, I was able to go right back with them, which usually nipped any sort of bullying right in the butt, and then we kind of all would get along, and I really didn't suffer too much with bullying as the years went on. It was really just in the early days of elementary school, because I was always able to make people laugh, and when you can make people laugh, you'd be surprised at how many different people you can get along with. Plus, I always found myself not one of those people that wanted to go from group to group. I always wanted to get along with everybody. And I feel like also most people put up this outside barrier around them where they don't want people to come in. And if you just talk to them, usually people let their guard down a little bit. And they're just willing to chat with you. You know, no matter who you are, everybody's insecure about something. So for me, obviously, I have all these exterior flaws when it comes to my skin and my eyes. But it is what it is. I can't do nothing about it. So I might as well embrace it and, you know, deal with it. I am who I am, and everybody should feel that way. You are who you are. You should never have to hide or bury something about your personality or how you look or anything like that. You're a human being. Everybody is different. Everybody is worried about something. Everybody is insecure about something. The problem is that people who are insecure about certain things, they then decide to bully other people to make themselves feel better about themselves. Unfortunately, this happens a lot in this world. We see it just all the time from the top to the bottom. Unfortunately, people are always trying to make themselves feel better about themselves, and it leads to negative attention for themselves. And we see this all the time on social media, on the internet in general. But for the most part, in general, I like to believe that people are good people who are generally caring about other people and what they're going through. You know, when I first started YouTube, that was a big deal. That was a big deal with me. Is like everyone says like, oh, the internet is toxic. I've been very lucky. I said it here on the channel in the past that pretty much anyone who watches this channel for the most part has been very, very, very nice. Made some great relationships in the 2+ years that this channel's been going on. So I can't say that I had a very negative experience in the YouTube space, but I know plenty of people who have. So maybe I just got lucky. I found you guys. I found the cinephiles, the physical media lovers out there who care about the same stuff as me, and I'm sure we all have insecurities. So for me, the biggest insecurities is definitely my skin tone and my poor vision. Those are the things that I always worry about. But you know what? Again, can't do nothing about it. The best thing you can do is just embrace it. So that was a great question, Kevin. Thank you so much, buddy. And that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Let's Talk Physical Media. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, share this video if you could, or if you want to take your support of Let's Talk to the next level, make sure you guys check out channel memberships in the description below. We have a Friends of the Channel tier, we have a Producers tier. That's where you're going to find John Doe Juggalo. Make sure you check out his YouTube channel out as well. Jason Martin, Mr. Smelly Potato, and we have a Directors tier. That's where you're going to find the great YouTube channel run by Frank Rodriguez, Frank's Media and Reviews. Again, check out his YouTube channel as well, especially if you're a physical media fan. You will not be disappointed. And then after you're done doing all of that, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you guys get out in those streets and tell your friends about us. And then after that, we'll be seeing you